it is Zena Krogadal, your American Dream Makers host here today, and it is another fantastic day. I hope your day is going well so far as well. And so I just want to tell you that I just love having you all here with me on American Dream Makers. You really are all inspiring to me, every single one of you. And so I want to thank you so much. If you are watching this, please go ahead and give StreamYard permission at streamyard.com/Facebook so we can see your comments. And we definitely would love for you to chime in. And if you have questions for our guest here, please absolutely feel free to put some questions in the chat. And so I do believe that the American dream belongs to all of us. Not only can you achieve it, but you can go beyond. My next guest is a wonderful woman who is just taking Prescott by storm. She is known as Cupcakes by Leanne. And boy, oh boy, does she not only make yummy cupcakes, but they are extremely beautiful. So let me bring on Leanne, and she's just amazing. Hi, Leanne.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing today?
Well, it's always a sweet day at Cupcakes by Leanne.
Yes, it is always a sweet day, and you are in your studio, your home
Yes.
studio there, and I've been to your workshops before, and it smells delectable when you
Yeah,
walk
it's
in.
funny when people walk in, they always go, "Oh, it smells so good in here." And of course, because I'm in here 8 to 10 hours a day, I don't smell it anymore. So I'm glad other people think it smells good.
Yes, yes. Well, it's a very pleasant smell. It's kind of like, people buy that sugar cookie candle because they
Mm.
constantly want to smell that sugary. And so, yeah, there's something about smelling the sweets that brings you back to a very comforting, peaceful place. Like, I don't know if anybody would have terrible memories of it. I mean, I think for most people, it brings you
Mm.
back to a very joyful place in your life. So kudos to you for having a wonderful, wonderful, successful business. So we want to know, who is Leanne Coon, and how did you end up becoming Cupcakes by Leanne?
Well, so it's kind of a interesting story. I always say, God takes you where He's going to take you, whether you want to go or not. Sometimes, and so I started really my career as a teacher. I was an educator for 28 years. I was a teacher and a vice principal and a principal of an elementary school, and then most recently a director in a school of education at a California university. And so I thought I was going to be a teacher or an educator my whole life. That was my calling. And in 2017, my sister decided she wanted cupcakes that looked like flowers for her wedding. And she lives in the Chicago area. And so I went there and we did some cupcake tastings. And um, the prices were outrageous, like $60 a dozen for cupcakes. And I was like, and that was in 2017. I had volunteered to pay for the cake table because that was going to be my gift to her. And I thought she was going to get, a cake. And instead, she decides she wants these cupcakes that look like flowers. So it was February of that year. I was a principal of an elementary school at the time. I said, you know what? I'm going to go home and I'm going to figure this out. So I, went home and watched all the videos and bought all the tips. And my staff, God bless them, they got cupcakes every week from February to June. And sometimes they were not very pretty because I was practicing. So, anyways, they were very gracious, gave me lots of good feedback, and I was super appreciative of that. But every Bible study, every funeral, anything that needed snacks got cupcakes. And then in June, I did her wedding, and I was so thrilled that she was happy and it was beautiful. And and then I just kind of washed my hands of cupcakes, and I thought, I'm going to go home and I'm going to be a principal until I die. I just loved being with the kids, and I love supporting teachers, and God just had other plans. So when I returned, I found out they were closing a school in my district, and I was low man on the totem pole. And so um, I had to make a decision about whether I was going to go back to teaching, which was a pretty big pay cut, or if I was going to resign and go find another job. And I'm sorry to admit, I had some pride issues. I was very full of myself and thought, I've never had trouble finding a job. I'll resign and I'll go find a job. And I think God chose that moment to help me with those pride issues and show me that, He has a plan for us, and it's not always the same as ours. And so after about 25 to 30 interviews all over Southern California, I didn't have a job. And that was very unusual. I usually interviewed and got, the first or second job I interviewed for. So it was pretty scary, kind of dark. We didn't know what we were going to do. And um, someone said, you should post pictures of your cupcakes. Maybe people will buy them. And I thought, that's ridiculous. I'm an educator. I'm a principal. That's what I do. Um, but you know, I just thought, well, what do I have to lose? So I did post some things on Facebook and some groups, and um, I mean, really, literally overnight, God gave me a full-time cupcake business, baking about 20 to 40 dozen a week in an oven, just like everyone else has in their house. So I got my home cottage license, and I started doing that full time. And I met amazing, wonderful people, and I just had so much fun being creative. And when people ask me, if I could do something like, for example, succulents, I started with flowers, but somebody wanted succulents, and I said, well, I've never done that before, but I'm willing to try. And that's pretty much my motto. If somebody asks me for something I've never done, well, never done it, but if you trust me, I'll try. And so I did cupcakes full time for 6 months, and I was kind of being prepared mentally and physically for the next chapter, and that was at the university. So when I landed that job, I was super excited, but I didn't want to give up cupcakes because now I had this, sort of creative part of my brain working, and so much different than education. And um, so I kept doing, I did both for 3.5 years. So about 8 to 5 every day, I was a director at the School of Education. And then from about 6 to midnight, it was cupcake time. So it was a pretty busy 3.5 years. And I feel like I don't remember getting very much sleep.
Probably didn't.
No. So about 2.5 years ago, my husband and I moved here to Prescott, and I continued to work for the university online. But we had a vision that we, wanted maybe to make cupcakes the full-time thing. So we were blessed to find an amazing home that had a space that already had built-in cabinets and a sink and its own entrance. And so we turned that into my cupcake studio and classroom. So I'm super blessed that I have that. It's only about a mile from downtown, so it's very convenient, and we love that. So I'm not a storefront, but I am a bricks and mortar dedicated bakery, kitchen, and classroom. And so that's pretty special. So I was able to leave the university and go full-time cupcakes. And just this last month, I celebrated my 6th year in business.
Wow. Well,
So
congratulations.
thank you. Yeah. It's kind of, it's mind boggling. I mean, it's not anything I ever thought I would do. And sometimes I have a little identity crisis about, I have a master's in education. I spent all those years doing that, but that just wasn't the path for me. Um, as my life got going. And so I'm super thrilled that I get to meet the most amazing people, and I get to make the most beautiful treats that they serve at their events. And I just feel like I'm, a part of every little event I get to provide cupcakes for. So it's really very special. Um,
Yeah. It,
so, yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
I think that's fantastic though that that you talk about. And honestly, there's a lot of people that I know that don't utilize their degree directly. They went and got an
Mm,
education, and that education, I don't think it's ever wasted, at all, because you learn, and it was probably the journey that you had to take to get to where you are today, and probably, I'm going to guess, also is the reason why you've become a successful entrepreneur, because you were constantly learning and teaching,
mm.
and also, oh, Lori says you are a great teacher. Oh,
Oh, thanks, Lori.
so I would imagine that, so I don't want you to definitely feel like, oh my gosh, I got a master's degree, but
Yeah,
like you said, God directed your steps. You make your plans, and God directed your steps, and you are teaching though. I've been to
yeah,
your workshops, and it's so much fun. You make it seem so easy. Everybody walks away with really nice looking cupcakes, and they feel like, I achieved something. So
yeah. It's pretty, yeah, I would say really the moral of the story for my life at the moment is you never know why you're learning something new. Um, because God can use that sometime in the future, or you never really know why you're going through something difficult. But being open to the lessons that you can learn during that period of time, and also being open to the blessings that other people can shower upon you. Like I said before, pretty prideful, very independent. Like, I don't need help. I don't need other people, really to make my life go. But when you're in kind of a dark moment in your life, and all of a sudden you start receiving blessings from other people that you didn't ask for and that you don't feel you deserve or you didn't need, it's really it's life changing. And so for me, it's just, I try and send that message to people that even if you might be learning something, maybe you're learning cupcakes. I will tell you, I'm very, very proud of the fact that there are 5 women now who have taken classes from me either online or in my studio and have gone on to start their own businesses in very dark times of their lives as well. So it's like, wow, I feel so blessed um that I was able to have that kind of impact on other people. And one of them is in Germany on a military base of some kind, and she's making cakes and cupcakes for the other military wives. And I think that's it's so amazing to see how you can touch the lives of people, and how it just kind of God uses it in His own way. So, but yes, teaching the classes really touches my educator's soul. So that's a great thing for me, is that I get to keep teaching. When people retire from teaching, they don't just stop wanting to teach. It's just they might want to teach in a different way. So some people start teaching Sunday school or Bible studies or book clubs or other thing like that. For me, I guess it just happens to be cupcakes.
which is great. Somebody's got to teach it,
Yeah.
right? I mean, yeah. And so you were talking about, how this business kind of came about in an unexpected time, in an unexpected way. And you've also mentioned, that you had been in a dark time in your life. So, uh, tell us a little bit about what that looked like. Was it dark because you were transitioning from, not being able to find work? Was that kind of part of what was happening, and then trying to figure out the new invention of who you are?
Yeah, and I feel like I think other women are like this, but I know that so many of us find our identity in what we do. And so my identity was a principal. I That's what I did, that's who I was, that's what defined me as a person. And when I didn't have that anymore, I had a serious identity crisis. Like, what if I'm not a principal? What am I? And so that was part of the darkness. But the addition to that was, I mean, there's a lot of other background information, but I really was the only income in our house at the time. We had two children in college. And it was like, how do you go from making six figures as a principal to making nothing? And what do you do with that? And so, um, even after I started the cupcake business, we would sit down every month to pay the bills and basically have the conversation of, if we can't pay the bills, we have to put the house on the market.
Yeah.
And that's a very scary place to be when you've been relatively financially secure for years. And then all of the sudden to not have that, it really takes your reliance. I mean, for me, it upped my reliance on God so much more, because all of a sudden it wasn't about me. It was about, Him providing for our needs. And it was crazy because every time we went to pay those bills, there was always just enough money, just enough to pay all of the bills. And, we gave up entertainment and things that we had loved doing, but we knew, what the priorities were for our kids in college. And it was just amazing to see how other people came step up to the plate without us even asking. Someone gave me my very first meat lock, one of those big meat locker freezers for the cupcake business. Just gave me these things. And um situations where money showed up that we weren't expecting, and we just knew all along that God was really providing those things for us. And it was really just our job to surrender to the process of learning. Um and it it but it also really gave me a heart for other people who are struggling through these times, who are transitioning and don't know what the next step is for them. And um it's so dark in a way that it was different, and it was hard, and it was scary, and sometimes there was anxiety involved. But also, whenever you're in the dark, there's always a light at the end of the tunnel, or a light that can be switched on with a light switch. And for us, just traveling through that 6 months really changed who we are as a married couple, who we are as a family, how we trust God with the tough stuff. And so it was super hard, but I would not change that 6 months for anything. And I'm so glad that we actually had to go through that. So
Well, yes, and I believe that's, you mentioned that, you follow the direction of the Lord God. And, in the Bible, James talks about count it all joy for the various trials you're about to endure. And so you obviously have been strengthened, and it's amazing and very inspirational to many others. And you're right. A lot of us women put our identity in what we do, but our identity shouldn't be in what we do. But that's a journey we all have to kind of embark on, for sure. Hi, Lynn. Oh, thanks for being here. Leanne is a real and raw, and has shared a great testimony of hers. Oh, very much so. Yes. Lynn Grunkley, she is a fabulous lady who is in our church in at Calvary Prescott, and she does um, a lot of our food and desserts. And she, in fact, she did the desserts for my daughter's wedding. And she's a
Oh,
lot like you in that she just loves to serve others, and her love language is definitely through her prepping food, making food and desserts for others. And anyways, it's so wonderful to meet so many women such as yourself, and even Lynn along the way, because you bring so much joy, to people. And I think you're finding that, as I'm hearing you talk about the last 6 years, and you are finding more joy than you realized you would find. And what I was hearing too when you were talking, is that you weren't really sure, like, how am I really going to make a living making
right.
cupcakes? And yet God showed you a way. And not only that, but then you moved in the middle of your business and having to
Yeah,
reestablish it.
that was a little scary. I mean, we did cupcake research before we moved, to see what was happening out here as far as desserts and bakeries and things. Um, but it was a little scary to uproot and start in a whole new place. I will say, some people really are against social media. However, if it were not for Facebook and Instagram, and social media platforms that I use, it definitely would have been a rougher start. But the other beautiful thing about Prescott, it is so small business oriented that everybody wants to support small businesses. And we have an amazing chamber of commerce that does such great work for us. And there's so many wonderful networking groups, that, refer each other. And it just, it was scary to do it, but we were so glad we did. We love the Prescott area and the Prescott people, and um, it's just such an honor to serve the community in so many ways. So yeah, a little scary to move, but we survived, and it all worked out well. And now I am booked, busy, and blessed. I'm the busiest I've ever been, and have to actually start setting some boundaries for myself. Otherwise, I could be in this studio for about 24 hours every day.
That is the challenge of entrepreneurship. I know that's what I have found is, when did I become such a workaholic? Because
Yeah,
I never was before. But when it's your own business, and that's what it takes to pay the bills, it's a whole different way of doing things. You don't just clock in and clock out, and you're not done after your cupcake workshops, or making cupcakes for weddings, or any of that, right? You've got a whole lot
right.
of other things that happen, to get to those things. So
Yeah.
yeah.
It's really, it could be at least a 12 to 15 hour a day job. I try really hard to keep normal business hours just for my own sanity, and of course for my husband, who we affectionately call Mr. Cupcakes. Um, but yeah, I mean, I try and be in here no more than 10 to 4. But then even after I leave here, I find myself, on my iPad working on orders or wedding quotes, or things like that. So it's a little tricky. I'm still, even 6 years later, I'm still trying to learn the boundaries. And I'm blessed. I don't have younger children anymore. All my children are grown, so I don't have that. But I never want to neglect Mr. Cupcakes. So
Yes, don't neglect Mr. Cupcakes. He's very important to the success of Cupcakes by Leanne. So,
yeah, he's my delivery man and my support, and he just really helps.
Lynn says, "Kudos to you, Leanne, for making your dream come true. Do we serve a good God or not? I'm going to have to meet you in person and give you a big hug." Yes, Lynn, you do
I
need
would
to meet
love
Leanne.
that.
You will love Leanne. She is just a fantastic human being, and loves the Lord. So, absolutely, we'll have to make sure that happens for sure. And Yeah, and I love that you mentioned your husband,
Yeah.
Mr. Cupcakes. And he is definitely a servant, and I've definitely been to your place, and he is such a wonderful support for your business because he's all in. I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
he whatever you guys are doing, you're doing together, and so I find that to be beautiful. How long have you guys been married for?
Ooh, we are celebrating 26 years in November.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to believe it's been that long. I mean, I really don't feel like I'm that old.
You're
But,
not. You're not.
I mean, we have older children, so I must be, getting up there. But, no, he is really amazing. And, if you, ever want to interview somebody who's an Arizona Ranger, he would be your guy. And they do some amazing work. And so I'm super blessed. He's retired, but he supports me in this. And he's also just out in the community doing so many other things that, really just, um, it's a great partnership. And I'm super blessed. Yeah.
I would love to have him on the show. I'd love to meet
Nice.
Mr. Cupcake, the Arizona Ranger.
Well, I'll tell you a funny story. So the reason why that all came about was in I think it was March of 2020 when COVID had just hit. And, all of a sudden everybody was at home and it was scary and stressful. And um, I decided that I was going to do an online series, a free online series of classes through Facebook Live. And so I did a week of flowers, everything from buttercream basics to, how to make Easter baskets because it was right around Easter time. And we didn't have a tripod or anything to hold my camera. So Mr. Cupcakes was the camera holder. And so he was very silly. He would like reach in front of the camera to try and get the cupcakes I was making, or he would give a thumbs up during the show or whatever. So he became like this personality behind the camera. And everybody kept saying, "We want to meet Mr. Cupcake." So end, at the end of the 2-week series, I literally turned one of my mixing bowls upside down and created it to look like a cupcake with like corrugated cardboard on the bottom and like a cupcake swirl made out of a tablecloth. And I gave it big googly eyes. And so at the end of the 2 weeks, I said, "Okay, we're going to meet Mr. Cupcakes." And so we turned the camera around, and that's what you saw was this man with the cupcake head. And so yeah, it's stuck ever since. We haven't been able to get rid of that Mr. Cupcakes label, but yeah, he's fantastic. I love him.
That's awesome. 26 years and counting. So that's amazing. And I love your story. And so you moved 2.5 years ago. So that was during COVID,
Yeah.
right? When all the world was just in a crazy, crazy mess, and there was a lot of uncertainty happening for a lot of people. So I can see why your business really took off during that time because it was a time where I believe a lot of people really struggled with hope that things were because it just seemed like it just kept dragging on and all you would hear was negative stuff. And so to come and be a part of being able to learn how to make cupcakes and just being around the environment and your personality, you're just very cheerful and joyful. So being around that is infectious, and then being able to craft your own cupcakes and then eat it is is great. And I'm not a crafty person, just I that it's not been my forte. And I know of many women who find crafting very relaxing and it's therapy for them, but for me, I found it to be very stressful. It was not relaxing. It was not my thing. But to go and do something creative like make the cupcakes, that you have done. And I know I've done 2 workshops with you and loved each and every one of them. But I really felt like it was a stress reliever that I felt very accomplished at the end of it, and then I got to enjoy the fruits of my labor. Not only admire it, but enjoy the fruits of the labor. And so I want to thank you so much too, because you donated cupcakes to us for the VA rep dinner gala in May, and we did phenomenal with that dessert dash. It was the first time we decided to do a dessert dash, and I know it was kind of last minute, but we didn't quite get our act together until towards the last minute as far as what we were going to do. But I so appreciated that you were so quick to say yes, I will donate. And the display, and in fact Lynn, who was on here watching us, she put the display up of all the desserts that were donated, and we ended up bringing in, I want to say, I think it was like $2,500 or somewhere around there on the dessert
Wow, that's great.
altogether. Yes, and so having, cupcakes like yours displayed, it's so inviting. Of course, some people are like, "It's too pretty to eat," sometimes is what I would hear. I'm
I
like,
do
"Oh, no,
hear that.
you do need to eat it because it
Yes.
tastes just as good as it looks." So and so your kids are grown, and where are they at these days?
So my husband has two older children, 40 and 39, that live in England and Greece, I think is where his son is at the moment. And we have one, two, three, four, five. We have five grandchildren. So over in Europe. And that's because he was in the military and was stationed over there at, different time of his life. Um, and then I have a 30-year-old who we actually recently, about a year and a half ago, moved here to Prescott, who is loving the area, very successful, and just became a financial manager and is doing great. So we're super proud of him. And then we have a 25-year-old daughter who is in Portland. She works for a nonprofit that services adults with disabilities. And then we have our youngest son is 24, and he's a CNA or a nurse assistant back in Southern California. So we're a little bit spread out now, but yeah, it's so fun as a parent to see your kids kind of becoming who they're supposed to be, and so we really enjoy touching base with them. I'm so grateful for technology too, because not only did the social networks help my business grow, but I mean it really helps us keep in touch with each other, in busy times, and especially with our kids, we like to FaceTime with them, every once in a while. But yeah, so we're thrilled with our family and the way everybody's, you know, doing so well. And it's kind of like icing on the cupcake for us.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So I don't know who Facebook user is, but the question for Leanne, can you have your cupcake and eat it too?
Well, so it's very interesting because people you're so,
Oh.
oh, hi Auntie Kim. Um, it's so funny because people say, "Oh, you must eat a ton of cupcakes." And really, yeah, at this point, 6 years down the road, I don't eat hardly any cupcakes. I mean, you can't, you would think I do because, they say never trust a skinny baker. You can definitely trust me. But it's not necessarily the cupcakes they're adding to my body. And it's funny because at the beginning, Mr. Cupcakes he would come in the kitchen and he'd ask me if I messed any up because he always got to eat the rejects. Um, and now he comes in the studio and he's like, are there any rejects? And I'm like, no, I've been doing this 6 years. I don't make those kind of mistakes anymore. So yeah, I don't eat a lot of cupcakes, but if I try a new recipe or something, I mean, of course we have to do quality control, but yeah, it's really funny. But I do get the comment, oh, they're too pretty to eat, a lot, and I usually just say, take the first bite, you'll get over it.
Yeah, that's for
So
sure. And you've mentioned, how social media, definitely has helped propel your business. And you're right. Social media has pros and cons for sure. Uh, oh, it was Chris Hines who asked the question. Hi, Chris. Thanks for being here. Oh, so glad you asked the question, because that is a good question to ask. Somebody that makes cupcakes for sure. And so social media, billions of viewers that are on there, and like you said, there's pros and cons to it, because sometimes it can occupy your time and you can be distracted from doing what you need to do. But at the same time, as far as the reach goes, and I think we found this out again during COVID, where the only way we could really connect for the most of part was through social media, was through those platforms, was through being able to reach out and connect and let people know that you're in business, and that sort of thing. And so kudos to you that you were able to uh, basically overcome that mindset of, oh, I don't like social media, I don't want to have anything to do with it, to, hey, social media can actually be my friend and I can have a positive influence. So I really applaud you for taking that step out of there, because some people have a hard time, once they feel like something's just can be a detriment, that to really embark on that. So Marty says her bouquets and cakes are amazing and they taste delicious.
Aw,
Yes,
thank
they
you,
do.
Marty.
And then Ricky says, best cupcakes ever. I agree. I absolutely agree. And I've even been, to different cities where they have these really fancy, elegant retail stores of cupcakes, and I have to say, Leanne, whatever you're doing to your cupcakes, it is truly wonderful tasting. And it's just perfectly the right moisture, the right texture, the all of that. And so even sometimes the fancier places, that have a great storefront and that sort of thing, sometimes they don't even compare to yours, Leanne. So
Well, we whenever we travel, we do what we call cupcake research. So we will find, a local cupcake place and go in and visit and chat with the owners. And um, I go incognito. So a lot of times I will show them a picture of my cupcakes and say, what would it cost? Because I'm trying to get the general idea of what things are costing out there. I would say the going rate right now for flour cupcakes is $95 to $100 a dozen.
wow.
Yeah. Depends on what area you're in. I know someone in Las Vegas that charges way more than that even, and it's I'm assuming it has to do with the area you're in. But I am committed to keeping my prices as low as possible. Number one, because I don't have the overhead that a lot of those places have,
Mhm.
because I'm blessed to have my studio. But also, I always remember that I got into this business because I didn't want to be gouged on an order of cupcakes.
Right.
And so, you know,
Yeah.
and so, I try and keep my prices as reasonable as possible. Now, when the eggs were $22 for 5 dozen and I used 10 dozen a week, it was hard. It was kind of like, okay, what do I raise my prices? But I'm really committed to that, to keeping things reasonable and tasty. And I think the other thing, well, and so when we do that cupcake research, we always buy a few cupcakes too. And we're always just really surprised at how dry they are and the fact that they're not very flavorful. And I never can quite put my finger on it, but I really believe it's because when you have a storefront or a situation where you're baking in large quantities, you can lose the quality of the product. And believe it or not, I still use an oven just like everyone else has in their home. So it takes me an entire day to bake all of, the cupcakes for the week or whatever, because I'm only doing 2 dozen at a time. So they're small batches. They're not, it's just not that kind of quantity that loses the quality. So,
Yeah.
and, when I send out my tips and tricks at the end of my classes, it's always about bake time and believe it or not, there is absolutely nothing wrong with putting baked goods in the freezer. In fact, I think it makes them more moist. And
Hmm.
so, there's little tricks of the trade, but I thank you very much for the compliments. I treasure that in my heart, and I hope that I can continue to keep that same, quality so that people are really pleased with the products that they get.
Mm. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely love, love, love your cupcakes and you, says Nichelle.
Thank you, Michelle.
And Facebook user, I don't know if this is still Chris Hines, but now I'm hangry for one of your cupcakes. How can I get some? That's a great question.
Oh, good question. So currently I am booking 4 to 6 weeks in advance. That's also how busy I am, Zena. So it's crazy to think that I posted yesterday, I am fully booked for September. I cannot take one more order if I want to sleep. So, so be thinking ahead for October, November, and December of events that you might have coming up. You can reach me through Facebook or Instagram. You are welcome to post up my email and my phone number if you want, Zena. Both of those things are ways to get a hold of me. If you're interested in looking at cupcakes and seeing the menu, there's my website, Cupcakes by Leanne, and would be, thrilled to serve more and more people here in the area. Classes are really fun, and I want to encourage people to take advantage of that. Let me tell you a little bit about classes. So they are $60. It's about an hour and a half experience, and you take home a beautiful dozen cupcakes. So I do everything. You just show up, and I have an apron and all of your icing and multiple flavors of cupcakes for you to pick, and you just get to enjoy the experience. So,
You've had
um,
men in there too.
oh my gosh, do you know men do so good in my classes? I honestly feel like sometimes the men do better than the women, although I will say that usually the men are the naughtiest.
Ah,
So, like, I have a time, I call it a timeout chair. I have an extra stool in my room, and I lovingly call that my timeout chair since I'm an educator at heart. And I always say, if you're not listening, you might have to go to the timeout chair. And I've only had one man in the timeout chair, and that's because he was taking his icing and just squirting it in his mouth. And I was like, oh dear, oh no. So, anyways, but men, I feel like they must use the more analytical part of their brain or something, because they do so well, and it's really fun. And I mean, really, ladies, who can pass up a man in an apron? Like when they put on that cute little pink ruffly apron, I get all like jelly in my knees because I just think that's so cute.
yes. Yeah, exactly. Who can resist their own Mr. Cupcake, right?
Yes.
Oh, thanks, Lynn. She's got to run, but it was a pleasure listening to us. Blessings. Thanks, Lynn, for being here. Really appreciate it. And be sure to share this out so that others can see it too. So, Facebook user, FYI, some of the best chefs in the world are men. Sorry, but it's a
I,
fact. Well, it's true.
I,
And even
I,
hairdressers too. Nope,
yes,
absolutely.
I think, we all have amazing talents and skills, but it is really fun if you're a couple and you want to do a fun date night, um, to come to a class, and then you end up with 2 dozen cupcakes to take home, which is kind of fun. But classes are great. So my class schedule is always posted on Facebook or Instagram on the 15th of every month at 10 a.m. for the following month. So people know when to kind of mark their calendar to get on and look at classes. Flowers and succulents are something that are done on a pretty regular basis, just about every month, at least once. And then whatever the holiday is, I throw some of those designs in. And then if there's a month without holidays, so August, no holidays. So we did puppy cupcakes, or pup cakes, as some of my customers like to call them. And then this month, there's not really any holidays, September. And so I'm teaching a brand new class, super cute safari animals.
Oh, wow.
So for people who have kids at home or birthday parties coming up or just want to do something fun. So, but classes are great. And, one of the things when I got here, I heard a lot of women in my classes saying things like, oh, I've been here a couple of years and I haven't really made any friends. And so I really started praying that God would help me to be the connector of women. And I have to say, that's what happens when you come to a public class and you don't know anyone else in the room. And all of a sudden, you're sharing this super fun experience. Before I know it, they're exchanging phone numbers or they're planning to come to the next class together. And it's so great to see how God is resourcing this space and me to put people together and have those relationships. So come to a class, make cupcakes, meet new people. It's like all of the best things. So
Absolutely, and definitely like Leanne's Facebook page so that you can stay on top of things. And also, once in a while, you might get lucky. She once in a while will have something like, "Oh, uh, order
mm,
got canceled," or something
yeah,
happens, and she'll have something up for grabs. So you definitely want to be paying attention because if you want to snag something
yeah.
up, some once in a while, you can get surprised and get a nice treat. So.
I call those available now posts. So it's big capital letters, available now. And it usually has to do with I overbaked or I got carried away and decorated too many. But every once in a while, life happens and there's an order cancellation. And it's always really great when somebody just last week I had a situation where somebody was canceling an order that I had already iced. And at the same time as I'm responding to that person, another person says, I know it's last minute, but do you have any cupcakes available? And I mean, it just like worked out before I'd even ended my response. So that happens a lot. But then if something doesn't get taken, we donate it to different doctors' offices and schools and things like that. So it's kind of shameless advertising because, I can go in and introduce myself and take a treat. So nothing ever goes to waste. And hopefully nothing ever goes to my waste.
That's a good one. Oh, hi, Nancy. So good to see you here. Nancy says you're such a dear person and a darling business. We work with her all the time. Yes, Nancy is the owner of the Willow Creek Event Center. And so, yeah, you guys have done a lot together since she's got the wedding venue and event venue. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, hopefully, nothing goes to waste, like you said. So
No.
tell us a little bit more about you have thank a teacher going
Oh,
on.
yeah. So you talked about me donating to your vets event. That is something that I am really, really serious about is giving back to the community. And so it's amazing how many charities are in this area and have galas and events and fundraisers. And so um, I think I've given about $2,000 in gift certificates or cupcakes this year alone. And so that's something I'm serious about. But the other thing is because I am an educator at heart and I know how hard teachers work and what a thankless job that can be sometimes. This year, I wanted to do something fun, which is my Thank a Teacher program, I guess I'll call it. Um, and so what I've asked is that for people to send me nominations of a teacher that they feel needs a special treat through my email. So I've been receiving nominations for teachers. And once a month, in fact, today I am going to make my delivery. And they will receive a large cupcake bouquet with a little note of thanks and the write up of the nomination from the person who nominated them. And that's just my way of giving back and brightening the day of someone who, works so hard and doesn't get a lot of thanks. Uh, and so I'm accepting nominations, and every month of the school year, there will be at the probably about the last week or the last day of the month, I will make that delivery. And I'm trying to figure out if we can do it live, like if Mr. Cupcakes comes with me and films me going into the classroom. But then I'm also very aware that it's not nice to interrupt a teacher when she's teaching. So I may just have to drop them off at the school office, but I'm hoping that brightens someone's day. And the worst part is picking who to choose, choosing. I'm like last night reading, I think I have about 10 or 12 nominations already. And I'm like in tears because some of them are so amazingly heartfelt. And I just was like, the pressure of who to pick was really hard. So unfortunately, I won't be able to honor all of them. But the other thing I like to do is in May, when it's Day of the Teacher, or most schools do their staff appreciation week. Is donating cupcakes or some kind of a treat during that week for the whole staff. So it's giving back to the community is really, really important to me. And I feel so honored that so many people choose me as their treat provider, that I just want to always make sure I am giving back in any way that I can. So yes, if you know a teacher that you feel you would love to honor with a cupcake bouquet, please send a recommendation or nomination to my email, which is cupcakesbyleanne17@gmail.com. And I would love to read about more amazing teachers in our area, and hopefully not cry, but at least be able to choose. So I might have to start throwing them all in a hat and just pulling out a name, because it's so hard to choose.
Yeah, I understand that is hard to do when you've got to pick one, and there's so many amazing, worthy candidates for things like that. But that's just beautiful that you are doing that for the teachers. And you're right, sometimes it can be a thankless job. I put it Cupcakes by Leanne17@gmail.com. So I've got that into the chat. And thank you, by the way, a Facebook user also put your website in the chat as well. And Bonnie Pooley says, we sure miss you here in California, but what a blessing for those who are receive and give your heart, your cupcakes. I'm sure, I get cut off too when I sometimes do my little thumbs. I'm like, oh, it left out a word, but we get the picture. Thank you, Bonnie, very much. Leanne, this time has gone by so fast, and you are an amazing, amazing person. Please continue to keep up the great work. So before we say goodbye, is there anything else that you would like to leave us with? And, for those that may be thinking about starting their own business or venturing out and doing something new, what do you have for them?
If you are being led to start something new, if you are feeling a call in your heart to do something, maybe it's something way out of your comfort zone, but if you're feeling that tug and that pull, I definitely think you need to follow through, because if you don't, you'll regret it. And if you do, you are bound to reap just blessings. So step out in faith, pray about things, do your research. Don't be afraid of social media, and network and reach out to other people who might be doing something similar, because together we're stronger together. And it's just, I can't emphasize the blessing of stepping out in faith that you will receive.
Absolutely. Amen, sister. That is beautiful. Thank you so much for taking your time out of your extremely busy schedule, and definitely say hello to Mr. Cupcakes.
I will.
And yes, and I would absolutely love to have him on the show. So you've got the booking link. So go ahead and find a time and let's get him booked because I'd love to hear what he's up to too. So, he's
Great.
doing some great things in the community as well. Thank you again, Leanne. It's always hard for me to
My
say
pleasure.
goodbye to my guests because I have so much fun on these shows. And you are definitely an American dream maker. Thank you for making the American dream come true for others as well and being so inspiring. So, God bless you and have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you guys for much for joining in today. And please be sure to share this out, even if you're watching it on the replay. Also, if you haven't liked or subscribed to my Facebook page, American Dream Makers, I'm also a Zena Krogadal page. I'm also on YouTube and LinkedIn. So I'd love to have your support. And if you can like and subscribe and share out the content, that would be absolutely great. And if you have an amazing story and business that you would like to share, reach out to me. I'd love to chat with you and connect. So have a wonderful, beautiful, blessed day. And until next time, we will see you later. Okay. Have a great one.